Why do humans follow the crowd yet cling to their own beliefs? Elliot Aronson's The Social Animal serves as a lens, revealing how social contexts shape our behavior. This classic in social psychology uses scientific insight to explore the complexity and depth of human nature. Social context, the interplay of conformity and obedience. The core of social psychology lies in the idea that human behavior is not isolated but deeply embedded in social contexts. Aronson states in The Social Animal, people's behavior is influenced by their social environment far beyond what we typically imagine. Conformity and obedience are prime examples of this influence, as we often unconsciously adjust our behavior to meet group expectations. In the 1950s, psychologist Solomon Asch designed a classic experiment where participants judged the length of lines in a group setting. The majority deliberately gave wrong answers, and the real subjects often followed suit, even when they knew the answers were incorrect. Asch found that about 1/3 of participants conformed at least once. This phenomenon highlights our sensitivity to social pressure, as we'd rather contradict our own judgment than stand out. Asch's experiment also revealed subtle conditions of conformity. Larger group sizes or more difficult tasks increased conformity. However, if one person opposed the majority, conformity significantly decreased. This shows that social support is key to breaking conformity. Obedience took a more striking form in Stanley Milgram's experiments in the 1960s. Milgram instructed participants to administer electric shocks to a learner for wrong answers, increasing the voltage each time. Despite the learner's cries of pain, 65% of participants obeyed the experimenter up to a lethal voltage. This suggests that authority can push people to violate their moral boundaries. Milgram further found that obedience was tied to the experimenter's perceived authority. Obedience was higher when the experimenter wore a lab coat or conducted the study at Yale University. If the experimenter appeared casual, obedience dropped. This highlights the profound influence of situational factors on behavior. In real life, conformity and obedience are ubiquitous. In 1970, at Kent State University, National Guard soldiers fired on students protesting the Vietnam War, killing 4. Many soldiers acted not out of personal intent but under orders and group pressure. Aronson notes, people who do crazy things are not necessarily crazy. This first law reminds us that behavior often stems from context, not individual character. For instance, during the 1960s U.S. civil rights movement, many white citizens opposed racial equality due to social pressure but later changed their views after joining black activists in protests. This shift underscores the dynamic influence of social contexts. This dynamic not only shapes individual behavior but also complicates group decision-making. Aronson points out that group discussions often lead to group polarization, where members' views become more extreme after discussion. For example, in the 1960s U.S. anti-war movement, student groups shifted from mild criticism of the government to radical protests, partly due to mutual reinforcement within the group. Extensions of Asch's experiment showed that anonymity increases conformity pressure, as individuals feel less accountable. A similar phenomenon appeared in the late Qing dynasty's Boxer Rebellion in China. Many peasants joined violent anti-foreign actions due to the fervor of local gatherings, not deliberate reasoning. A historian recorded a Boxer member recalling, "When the crowd shouted for violence, I joined in." This group-driven force shows that conformity is not just about yielding to pressure but can also result from emotional resonance. Aronson's analysis reminds us that social contexts are not just external constraints but catalysts for internal impulses. The social upheavals of late Qing China offer a parallel example. During the 1898 Hundred Days Reform, Kang Yu's progressive ideas faced resistance from conservative officials, many of whom opposed not out of conviction but due to court pressure to conform. Kang wrote in his memorial to the King Emperor, "The trend of the world, when followed, leads to prosperity, when resisted, to ruin." His failure partly stemmed from the resistance of group pressure, echoing Asch's findings on conformity. The power of social context reveals that individual behavior often results from the interplay of group norms and authoritative commands. Cognitive dissonance, the maze of self-justification. Humans are driven not only by external contexts but also by internal conflicts. Aronson's theory of cognitive dissonance, a cornerstone of the social animal, explains this dynamic. When our actions clash with our beliefs, we feel psychological discomfort, prompting us to adjust our attitudes or justify our behavior. Aronson writes, cognitive dissonance is a powerful motivator, driving us to rationalize our choices. For example, smokers who know smoking is harmful may deny the risks. I know people who smoked and didn't get cancer, or emphasize benefits. Smoking helps me relax, to ease dissonance. This self-justification is common in everyday life. For instance, someone who buys an expensive but impractical luxury item may exaggerate its value to alleviate spending guilt. Aronson validated this through experiments. Participants paid a small reward for a boring task were more likely to claim the task was interesting, as the low reward conflicted with the belief that the task was dull, prompting attitude change. This mechanism is evident in real-world cases. In the 1960s, civil rights leader Martin Luther King Jr. faced countless threats but persisted in nonviolent resistance. Some of his followers, initially skeptical of nonviolence, changed their beliefs after joining marches to align their actions with their attitudes. King said, "We must meet hate with love." His followers resolved dissonance through action, ultimately strengthening their convictions. Another case is the 1978 Jonestown tragedy, where cult leader Jim Jones led over 900 followers to commit mass suicide. Many knew the risks but, due to heavy investment time, money, emotions, justified their loyalty. This is for a higher cause, leading to tragedy. A similar pattern appeared in late Qing China during the Taiping Rebellion. Many followers of Hong Xiuquan, despite knowing his ideals were unrealistic, remained loyal due to their deep investment, continuing until the movement's collapse. One of Hong's followers, Zhao Shaogi, declared, "The heavenly emperor's will cannot be defied." This self-justification mirrors the psychology of Jonestown followers. Cognitive dissonance also affects decision-making outcomes. This impact is significant at both individual and societal levels. For example, policymakers often cling to flawed policies due to dissonance, avoiding admission of failure. Aronson cites an experiment where participants, after a failed investment, were more likely to invest further if they publicly committed, rather than cut losses. This sunk cost fallacy recurs in history. In the late 19th century, British colonial authorities in the Boer War, aware of strategic errors, persisted due to massive prior investments, leading to heavy losses. A British general wrote, "We've invested too much to turn back." This mirrors the psychology of Jonestown followers. At the personal level, cognitive dissonance shapes self-perception. For instance, Elena Carter felt uneasy rejecting a promotion, as it clashed with her pursuit of success belief. She eased dissonance by emphasizing work-life balance, redefining her career goals. Aronson notes that while such adjustments reduce discomfort, they may hinder true change. In late Qing China, reformist Tan Sitong faced a similar dilemma. After the failed 1898 reforms, he chose martyrdom over escape to maintain consistency with his loyalty to ideals belief. His poem, I Think of Zhang Jian at the Gate, Enduring Death to Await Du Zhen, reflects this complex psychology. For example, someone choosing a high-paying job over a passion may feel empty but justify it by emphasizing salary to ease dissonance. Aronson notes that this mechanism not only explains individual behavior but also reveals the roots of societal phenomena, like why people persist in wrong decisions. The roots of prejudice and its dissolution through cooperation. Prejudice is another key theme in social psychology. Aronson notes that prejudice stems from cognitive shortcut stereotypes that allow quick categorization but often ignore individual differences. For example, in the early 20th century, U.S. prejudice against Asian immigrants stemmed from the yellow peril stereotype, portraying them as threats to the economy and culture. This prejudice was not based on facts but was a product of socialization. Prejudice formation is closely tied to socialization. Children absorb biases from family and school, such as certain groups are lazy or certain genders fit specific roles. These beliefs become deeply ingrained and hard to shake. For instance, in the late 19th century, Western societies widely believed women were unfit for science, limiting countless women's opportunities. Aronson emphasizes that prejudice is not just cognitive but intertwined with emotions and behavior. Fear of outgroups and the need to maintain in-group superiority amplify its spread. Yet prejudice is not unchangeable. Aronson introduced the jigsaw classroom experiment, where students of different races collaborated on tasks, each holding a piece of the solution. In the 1970s, Aronson implemented this in Texas schools. Students worked in diverse groups, each contributing essential information, reducing hostility over weeks as they viewed each other as partners, not rivals. Aronson writes, "Contact alone doesn't eliminate prejudice. Cooperation is key." Real-world interventions show similar success. After South Africa's apartheid ended, Nelson Mandela's Truth and Reconciliation Commission fostered collaboration between races to confront historical wounds. This mirrored the jigsaw classroom, promoting social integration. Mandela said, "No one is born hating another. Hate is learned." His efforts validated Aronson's theory: cooperation and empathy can gradually dissolve prejudice. In modern Chinese history, similar prejudice reduction occurred. During the late Qing's self-strengthening movement, Young Wing, the first Chinese student to study in the U.S., faced anti-Chinese bias but earned respect through cooperative learning with classmates. In his memoir My Life in China and America, he wrote, "Sincere interaction can dissolve prejudice." Young's experience aligns with the jigsaw classroom's principles, showing the power of cross-cultural exchange. This power extends to the long-term effects of prejudice reduction. Aronson notes that the jigsaw classroom's success lies not just in short-term cooperation but in reshaping long-term attitudes. Follow-up studies showed that participants supported racial equality policies more as adults. This lasting effect stems from cooperation's psychological mechanism: shared goals redefine group boundaries from us vs. them to we. A similar mechanism appeared on the international stage. At the 1919 Paris Peace Conference, Chinese delegate Gu Weijin faced Western prejudice but earned respect through equal dialogue with diplomats. In his memoir, he wrote, "Reason can break down bias." Though Gu couldn't fully secure China's interests, his efforts laid groundwork for future diplomacy. Aronson's theory holds: dissolving prejudice requires time and sustained interaction, not instant fixes. Modern workplace diversity training draws on this principle, like Google's cross-department projects that reduce gender and racial biases. These cases show that while prejudice is stubborn, it can be dismantled in carefully designed social contexts. Aggression, the roots of human conflict. Aggression, from verbal harm to violent conflict, runs through human history. Aronson analyzes aggression's multiple roots in the social animal: biological factors like testosterone, environmental triggers like heat or crowding, and social learning like violent cultural norms. Notes that aggression is not mere evil but a complex interplay of social and psychological factors. The 1971 Stanford prison experiment revealed how situations amplify aggression. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo assigned students as guards or prisoners, and within days, guards abused prisoners, forcing the experiment's early end. Aronson cites this to show ordinary people in extreme situations can display shocking cruelty. The experiment also showed that anonymity or clear roles heighten aggression. Real-world cases are equally stark. In the 1994 Rwandan genocide, Hutus massacred Tutsis, killing hundreds of thousands. Many ordinary participants were driven not by innate cruelty but by propaganda and group pressure. Aronson notes that media demonizing out groups like Rwandan radio labeling Tutsis as enemies ignited violent tendencies. Aggression is also shaped by culture. Aronson points to the U.S. South's culture of honor, where violence defends dignity, leading to higher homicide rates. Similarly, in late Qing China's Boxer Rebellion, anti-foreign propaganda fueled attacks on foreigners, justified by social norms. A Boxer leader declared, "Expel foreigners to protect China." This group-driven violence reflects the catalytic role of social context. Yet aggression has a constructive side. Aronson notes that controlled aggression in sports can relieve stress and foster teamwork. For example, boxer Muhammad Ali used ring confrontations to advocate racial equality, turning aggression into a force for justice. He said, "I speak with my fists and change the world with my beliefs." Aggression's duality suggests the key lies in channeling, not suppressing it. This requires understanding aggression's triggers. Aronson cites the frustration-aggression hypothesis: blocked goals spark aggression. During the 1930s Great Depression, U.S. unemployment spiked and social frustration fueled violence against minorities. Similarly, after the failure of late King's self-strengthening movement, economic hardship led some to target foreign missionaries, sparking the Boxer Rebellion. Aronson also cites an experiment where participants in hot environments showed more hostility towards strangers. This environmental effect is evident in reality. In the 2010s, Indian cities saw frequent street conflicts due to heat and resource shortages, highlighting environmental triggers. Yet aggression is controllable. Aronson suggests channeling it through outlets like art or sports. In the early 20th century, Russian painter Wassily Kandinsky expressed anger through abstract art during social unrest, transforming violent impulses into creativity. His work Yellow, Red, Blue is seen as a sublimation of inner conflict. Such mechanisms offer insight. While aggression is part of human nature, it can be transformed into constructive force in the right context. Interpersonal relationships, the code of liking and love. Interpersonal relationships, from friendship to love, are central to social psychology. Aronson notes that liking stems from similarity, proximity, and reciprocity. We like those who are similar, nearby, or give positive feedback. In the 1960s civil rights movement, volunteers bonded over shared beliefs and frequent interaction, forming deep friendships. Aronson cites research showing proximity, like living in the same dorm, predicts friendship more than appearance. This proximity effect applies in modern workplaces. In the 2010s, Silicon Valley's open plan offices fostered daily interactions, boosting team cohesion. Aronson adds that reciprocity is a friendship cornerstone, helping others strengthens bonds. For example, volunteer Elena Carter built a lasting friendship after helping a colleague during a community event. Love is more complex, blending passion, intimacy, and commitment. Aronson cites Robert Sternberg's triangular theory of love, explaining relationships like fleeting passionate flings, intimate friendships, or consummate love with all three elements. Physiological arousal like a racing heart often sparks romance, but lasting relationships rely on intimacy and commitment. Indian poet Rabindranath Tagore's Marriage illustrates this. Arranged by family with little initial passion, he and his wife built deep intimacy through shared life, creating a legendary bond. Tagore wrote, "Love is another name for understanding." His story reflects love's psychological complexity. Love is also shaped by cultural norms. In traditional Chinese society, arranged marriages emphasized family duty over personal feelings, yet many couples built deep bonds through shared experiences. For example, late King scholar Tan Saidong's arranged marriage grew strong through shared struggles during the failed 1898 reforms. This cultural context aligns with Aronson's theory, showing social situations' deep impact on intimate relationships. Social norms also shape how love is expressed. Aronson notes that in collectivist cultures, love intertwines with family duty, while individualist cultures prioritize personal feelings. In traditional Japan, arranged marriages required couples to build affection post-wedding. Early 20th century Japanese writer Natsume Saseki's marriage began with distance due to arrangement but grew intimate through daily life, inspiring his work. In Kokoro, Saseki wrote, "Love is a gift of time." Modern social media has reshaped love's dynamics. Aronson notes that online interactions amplify the attractiveness effect. People are drawn to photos but may overlook deeper compatibility. Data from 2020's dating apps show users often miss long-term matches due to appearance bias. This contrasts with Aronson's similarity principle, reminding us that lasting love relies on deeper connections, not surface attraction. The contrast between Saseki's marriage and modern dating highlights social context's profound impact on love's definition. Social psychology, experiments, and real-world applications. The social animal's strength lies in its scientific rigor. Aronson emphasizes that social psychology relies on experiments to uncover causal relationships through controlled variables. For example, Milgram's experiments used random assignment to prove authority's decisive role in obedience. Aronson also describes an attitude change experiment. People who publicly commit to a behavior like environmentalism are more likely to follow through. This commitment consistency principle is widely applied in social interventions. During the 2008 U.S. presidential election, Obama's team used this to boost voter turnout by encouraging public voting pledges. Aronson writes, "Social psychology not only explains behavior but can change the world. This principle also applies to school bullying prevention." In the 1990s, U.S. schools adopted the jigsaw classroom model, reducing bullying through cooperative tasks. In modern Chinese history, social psychology's influence is evident. Liang Qixia used persuasive techniques in essays like On the New Citizen to awaken national consciousness during the 1898 reforms. He said, "To renew the people, first renew their minds." His speeches mirrored Aronson's foot-in-the-door persuasion tactic. Small commitments like reading progressive books gradually shifted public attitudes. Though Liang's efforts didn't fully succeed, they sowed seeds for the May 4th movement's intellectual awakening. Social psychology also informs modern marketing. In the late 20th century, Japanese advertisers used emotional ads like family themes to drive purchases, leveraging Aronson's emotional arousal principle. These cases show that social psychology's scientific methods not only reveal behavior's patterns but offer practical tools for real-world problems. Conclusion: be your own social animal. Social animal is more than an academic work, it's a mirror reflecting human nature. With scientific rigor and human warmth, Aronson reveals our complex selves within social contexts. From conformity to prejudice, aggression to love, our behavior is shaped by situations yet holds the potential for change. Every experiment and case points to one truth: we are social animals, molded by our environment but capable of reshaping it. Martin Luther King Jr.'s transformed racial prejudice through nonviolent resistance. Mandela healed South Africa's racial divide through reconciliation. Tagore wrote humanity's warmth through poetic love. These figures show that though small, individuals can break situational constraints through awareness and action. As Aronson says, understanding social psychology is understanding ourselves. In today's world, social media amplifies conformity and prejudice but also offers a stage for cooperation and empathy. In the 2020s global environmental movement, youth used online collaboration to drive climate action, showcasing social psychology's positive power. No matter how times change, the social animal's insights remain vibrant. May we use scientific understanding and human courage to write our own behavioral story. This courage is not just personal choice but a driver of social progress. Aronson emphasizes that social psychology's value lies in empowering us to change contexts. In the mid-20th century, psychologist Kenneth Clark's doll experiment proved racial prejudice's harm to children's self-esteem, prompting the U.S. Supreme Court to end school segregation in Brown v. Board of Education. Clark's wife, Mamie Clark, recalled, "We used science to ignite justice." In Asia, similar efforts reshaped norms. In the late 19th century, Indian reformer Raja Ram Mohan Roy campaigned against widow immolation, challenging entrenched cultural biases. His newspaper Sambad Kaumudi became a tool for awakening the public, aligning with Aronson's persuasion theories. In modern times, youth leaders like Greta Thunberg spark global action through speeches, showing social psychology's practical power. Their stories remind us that being a social animal means not just adapting to environments but reshaping them. Aronson's insights offer a guide. With science as our foundation and humanity as our light, we can find our path in the complex web of social connections.